It was our anniversary, and my girlfriend's childhood friend, Ben, insisted on treating us to dinner. He got drunk, and an argument broke out between him and a group of thugs who came by. In a panic, my girlfriend, Sarah, pulled Ben and ran off, leaving me to get pinned to the ground by the mob. I fought my way out, and when I was finally rescued, my left arm was broken and bleeding badly. After surgery, I wanted to let Sarah know I was okay, but I saw her and Ben's intertwined hands going viral on her social media. Running with him like that gave me a runaway bride feeling. So thrilling. Countless people messaged me to gossip. I simply liked the post and left a blessing. So thrilling. You guys should just elope and get married. When I was rushed into the emergency room, I was still worried about Sarah's safety. My concern was met with silence until I came out of the operating room. Meanwhile, Ben's social media was buzzing. On Sarah's ring finger, I could still see the matching ring we had custom-made, but the hand she held wasn't mine. Swallowing every curse word, I calmly liked the post and sent my blessing. Within a minute of my comment, my phone was bombarded with angry messages from Sarah. "Leo, what nonsense are you spouting? We were lucky to escape those thugs, but you're twisting everything? Are you going to be insecure and jealous all the time? It's embarrassing. It's all because you picked that awful place to eat that Ben got into trouble. He was just being nice by inviting us, and he even made sure I got home safely. You should be thanking him instead of saying all these sarcastic things. And you know he has bipolar disorder. I don't understand your dirty mind. Apologize to Ben on social media immediately. Not a single word of concern, just a barrage of accusations that made my heart sink. If she had looked at me for even a second, she would have noticed the busy nurses behind me. Sarah, I broke my arm. Oh, stop it. Just because you're muscular doesn't mean you can fight a bunch of drunkards. Don't act like you're sick to get sympathy. Apologize to Ben like you should. I can't believe you're so shameless. Something fell, and Ben's surprised exclamation reached my ears. Sarah hung up the video call, looking panicked. In her eyes, I was a superhuman capable of taking on 10 men barehanded. The fight had been so intense that I'd sustained some internal bleeding in my skull and needed to be kept for observation. I lay in the hospital bed, my head swimming and nausea washing over me. The next day, I woke up to countless messages asking about me and Sarah. Instinctively, I clicked on her social media. A pinned post with a short sentence struck me like a knife. Leo hasn't been in a good place emotionally lately. Please bear with him. She, a psychologist, had actually tried to defame me as mentally unstable on social media just to defend Ben. Sarah vanished completely until my discharge from the hospital. I couldn't cook with my injured left hand, and as I pondered what takeout to order, Sarah finally decided to contact me. Let's just forget about it and come home. I'll buy groceries and cook dinner tonight. It was the end of 3 days of Cold War, breaking our all-time record. Usually, Sarah would take a high-handed approach and wait for me to give in first. I'd always go and coax her back within a day. Because I loved her too much, I couldn't bear seeing her upset. I had always kept my promise to never go to bed angry. I was afraid of pushing her away. It was the first time I had ignored her for 3 days and not gone home. I had even begun to think we had ended things without a word. Don't bother, I'll just order takeout. Sarah sounded displeased, her tone impatient. Just take the olive branch and don't be difficult. Just come home and wait for me. In her eyes, offering me a way out was probably a great blessing. She was a good cook, but rarely cooked for me. Usually, I would have cried tears of joy at the prospect of her making dinner. But the memory of her leaving me to face those thugs for Ben made me realize that obsessing over romance was a form of slow suicide. Her and Ben's inappropriate intimacy was the last straw that broke me. What she considered a heavenly gift was nothing more than a farewell meal. And besides, the hospital food had been terrible, and I didn't want to make my stomach suffer. Okay. Upon receiving my confirmation, Sarah hung up immediately, as if speaking to me for another second was a waste of her time. She would usually prepare at least a 3-course meal. I quit my takeout apps and had some fruit while waiting for her to come home and make dinner. But she never came home or called me even late that night. My stomach growled, and I eventually ordered takeout. The delivery took an hour because of the heavy rain. I ate with no appetite at all and scrolled through social media. Ben had just posted. It was a grid of 9 photos of Sarah looking domestic and making a big meal in the kitchen. The caption was, "I'd be happy to die under a woman like this." I was resolved to break up with her. After making that decision, I felt no sadness. I realized that the world wouldn't end just because I broke up with Sarah. I lay in bed, full and tired, and Sarah still hadn't contacted me. I didn't question her and answered a call from my advisor instead. "Leo, this opportunity to study abroad is once in a lifetime. The facilities and team are top-notch. Are you really going to give up your future for love? If you truly love each other, distance shouldn't matter. If it comes down to it, you can just come home once a month, and I'll pay for your tickets." After my parents died, I vowed to become a doctor who saves lives. But Sarah's troubled family background had made her cling to a desperate need for security. Even as a psychologist, she couldn't heal herself. Whenever my advisor invited me to study abroad, she threw tantrums and threatened me. "If you dare to abandon me, we're done for. If you aren't here, there's no love." I had no choice but to refuse my advisor's offers for her sake. This was the nth time my advisor had tried to convince me. "Leo, just listen to me. We can figure out something for Sarah to go abroad to study as well, but I need some time. In about 3 months, we can get her a job sorted." My advisor went through a great deal of effort to help me move up in my field. "Professor, I want to go with you. Don't worry about Sarah anymore." My advisor was ecstatic and slammed the table. "Leo, I'm glad you understand. I'll make the arrangements for you to go abroad right away. I just know I'll live to see you making waves in the medical world." Sarah would never know how much sacrifice I made to stay at her beck and call, giving up my dreams and clipping my own wings for her. She repaid me by pushing me into danger so her childhood friend could escape unharmed. It was time to pick myself up and chase my dreams, which were my true love. Fortunately, it was not too late, and her no-show today means that we are already broken up. In the middle of the night, a loud bang woke me up. I cautiously got out of bed and found that Sarah had brought a drunk Ben home. When she saw me standing in the doorway, she scolded me immediately. "Leo, can't you see? Come help me." I watched Ben intentionally lean all his weight on Sarah, eventually pushing her onto the sofa. Their intimate posture, along with the smell of alcohol, made me feel disgusted. Noticing I was still standing there, Sarah continued to hold Ben and made sure he wouldn't fall. "Leo, are you deaf and blind?" I ignored her and went back to my room, locking the door so I wouldn't have to see her. 10 minutes later, Sarah was pounding on my door. "Leo, what do you think you're doing?" Ben was upset, and he was acting strangely, so I had a few drinks with him. That's why I didn't come home to cook for you. I wouldn't have brought a drunk Ben home if I wasn't worried you'd overthink everything. It sounded as if I should be grateful for her bringing Ben home. I told her coldly through the door, "It's not my business. No need to explain." To my surprise, she found the spare key and opened the door. She finally noticed the bandage on my hand. She looked at me with disdain. "What kind of performance art is that?" I scoffed and asked her to leave, but she rushed toward me, trying to remove my bandage. "Leo, you've been ignoring me for 3 days and now you're so arrogant? So what if I ran with Ben and I didn't get back in time to make dinner? You're making a big fuss about something so small." It always came back to Ben, which made me sick. For the first time, I questioned what it was that I loved about Sarah. When she realized I wasn't cooperating, she grabbed my arm, causing me so much pain that I had to push her away. "Go back to your bin. We're done. There's nothing more to discuss." Sarah was pushed away, and she stumbled back, accidentally knocking Ben to the floor as he approached. When she saw Ben fall, she immediately checked on him. I had never received that level of concern. She was about to scold me when she finally saw the bandage on my arm, stained with blood. Her drunkenness subsided. "Leo, what happened to your arm?" She glanced at Ben, who was still leaning on her shoulder. There was a hint of panic in her eyes. "Leo, how could you not tell me you were injured?" Her question made me want to gouge out her eyes. "You left me for dead with those angry thugs, and you didn't think I would get hurt? How can you ask me that now? What? You got injured that night? She pushed Ben away and hesitantly stepped towards me, wanting to hug me, but I dodged her touch. I saw guilt and worry in her face. I never thought you'd get hurt. I just thought you'd run away too. You know Ben can't control himself when he's drunk. It would have gotten ugly if there had been a fight. And Ben and I know, you two have been playing in the mud together since you were kids. If there was ever any trouble, there's never any space for me. Sarah was stunned into silence. That's not what I meant, but I'm glad you understand. You still shouldn't have ignored me for 3 days and made me look bad on social media. How about you go and cook a hangover soup for Ben and I? Then we can delete those social media posts and call it even. I stared at her in disbelief. They say people tell the truth when drunk, but she just exposed her true colors. We were already broken up, so who was going to make hangover soup for her and her ex in the middle of the night? I don't understand how she could make that request so shamelessly. Did she think this was the same as when we had past arguments? When she saw me standing there, she grabbed my good hand, pouting. Honey, please do it. I pulled my hand away and said to her, we were over the second you used me as a human shield for Ben. Ben didn't pretend to be drunk anymore, and he excitedly snuggled up to Sarah, an excited glint in his eyes. Leo, did those thugs do anything bad to you? They looked like they were all gay. If my right wrist wasn't injured, I would have punched Ben hard. Under my murderous gaze, Ben pretended to be knowledgeable and teased me. Sorry, I misspoke. I won't ask, but you should get checked out, just in case. You're a doctor, you know what I mean. His gloating expression instantly made Sarah start speculating. She anxiously rushed over to peel back my pajamas. When she saw the bruises all over my body, her lips trembled as she asked, did they? I didn't miss the disgust in her eyes, and she immediately pulled her hands away, as if she touched something dirty. They did abuse you? Even me and Ben managed to run away, so how did you not? You could have called for help. Sarah couldn't continue her words and turned away, unable to look at me. Why did she think that I could run away from a mob of tattooed men? Was that why she had left me and ran with Ben? And why did she not even try to call the police for me? If it hadn't been for a good Samaritan, those men would have crippled me. I turned away, not wanting to look at Sarah, but she was still fixated on getting an answer. Did you take the pep drug? Your life is more important than anything else. I picked up the glass of water from the table and threw it in her face. Are you awake now? Ever since Ben appeared, her heart has been wavering, constantly doubting me. She knew that I had never lied since the day we met, especially to her. But because of Ben, she repeatedly thought I was lying. I had told her that Ben was always so close to her for his own agenda, but she didn't believe it. I also said that Ben's depression may be fake, but she wouldn't believe that either. Now I realized that she didn't want to believe it. The woman who loved me now thought that I had a disease because of something Ben said. The last time we argued about their flirtatious relationship, she threw a glass of water in my face. To make me wake up, Sarah let the water trickle down her face and shouted, "What are you acting up for? You just got injured. We had to run, otherwise we would have been in trouble." After her outburst, she calmed down and went to the sink to wash her hands, trying to hide her feelings. After washing her hands for 10 whole minutes until they were red, she said to me, "You can always seek me out for psychological counseling, but at the end of the day, you have to do the self-healing part yourself. There's only so much I can do. Let's stay apart until your blood test comes back, and if you're clear, I'll keep the baby and marry you." I rubbed my ears, thinking that I heard it wrong. "A baby? You're pregnant?" She pursed her lips. "I was going to surprise you that night, and that's why Ben wanted to take us out for dinner, but you ignored me for 3 whole days. Ben kept telling me to think it through, because life matters, but I never thought that you would be so resentful over what happened that night. So Ben knew about her pregnancy before I did. Shouldn't she have told me first? Didn't she realize that if it hadn't been for Ben insisting on eating at South Street, I wouldn't have taken her there to celebrate our anniversary? Just because I ignored her for 3 days, she was thinking about an abortion, and she didn't think about why I was so different this time. My heart was dead. "Sarah, no need to wait for the results. We're done. And the baby isn't necessary either. Just set up an appointment and I'll go with you to the hospital. I'll also take care of you during your postpartum rest period." She widened her eyes and screamed in disbelief. "What do you mean? You're telling me to have an abortion? Leo, are you even human? It's a life. How can you just break up with me and tell me to have an abortion? Are you seeing someone else? Wasn't she the one who considered abortion first? Was she not the one who had been flirting with Ben? If every psychologist treated their patients like this, then the family members would all go crazy. I had always wanted kids, and when we embraced in the most romantic moments, I would hope to marry her and have children with her. But she saw the baby as a disposable item that could be used to threaten me. Leo, say something. Are you going to run away from your responsibilities after sleeping with me?" Her eyes welled up with tears. It was as if I were the villain who had wronged her. I rubbed my temples, feeling exhausted. Before I could say anything, Ben punched me. "You jerk. How could you treat Sarah like that? She hasn't been eating or sleeping for the past few days, and you dare to tell her to get an abortion? Are you even a man?" Sarah watched as Ben's fist was about to hit my injured arm, but she did not flinch. There was only disappointment in her eyes. If I hadn't stepped back, Ben's punch might have sent me to the hospital again. "Sarah, let's go home. This jerk doesn't know how lucky he is. And he may be dirty too. Let's not stay here. It's bad luck." When she heard that, Sarah didn't hesitate to leave with Ben. As I left, I could hear her and Ben complaining about my lack of appreciation. Does he really think that just because I'm pregnant with his child I'm doomed to be with him? It's just an abortion. Who cares? Her angry door slamming mixed with those words was deafening. She was angry. When she called me honey and brought up the pregnancy, she was giving me a way out, but I refused to take it. In the past, whenever she had a tantrum, I would pull out all the gifts I had prepared and coax her to be happy. I loved her too much to let her be upset, and I would never let her have an abortion, nor would I even think of breaking up with her. She liked chatting with Ben, comforting him in his depression. I assumed it was a doctor's compassion, and she was just being considerate to her childhood friend. At first, I tried to be friendly to Ben. Every time I cooked a big meal, I would follow Sarah's suggestion and invite him to join us. I just wanted to help Ben get out of his misery as soon as possible, so he wouldn't cling to Sarah. But with each encounter, his condition seemed to worsen. My gut told me he was faking his illness, but Sarah refused to believe it and would call me narrow-minded, unworthy of being a doctor. My sacrifices had only led to intimacy between them, which in turn caused my jealousy to consume me. Every holiday, Ben would ask her to go back to his hometown to see his parents, and she would actually leave me to go with him. Although she always came back to me early, she was no longer mine first. I asked her if it wasn't weird to go home with Ben like that, like she was meeting his family. What would happen if his parents misunderstood? She said that she had grown up with Ben, and his parents always defended her whenever she was being bullied, so it was natural for her to visit them. I had always believed she was loyal. I wouldn't have loved her if she was a cold person, but she always refused to meet my parents. It was either because she was busy with work or not ready. She didn't want to. My mom asked if Sarah was just playing with me. At the time, I said that she was just shy because meeting the parents would lead to wedding plans. My mother gave me a meaningful look and said that if I marry Sarah, she'd probably be a cheap bone. I had been so immersed in love that I thought it was an honor. Now, I realized that I had been brain dead. The next day, as I was about to go down for breakfast, I ran into Sarah, who was entering the passcode. She smiled and held the breakfast in front of me, pushing me back inside. "Honey, I bought you the breakfast you love. Go wash your hands and have a taste." I glanced outside. The sun hadn't risen in the west, had it? Sarah had stopped caring about my meals months ago. Why would she be buying me breakfast? And that place is very popular. The wait is at least 30 minutes. How could she have the patience to wait in line for me? When I went to the sink, Sarah rushed over to help me wash my hands. She was still wearing the couple ring on her soft hand while my finger only had a faint mark. She had also noticed it but didn't ask why I had taken it off. Her abnormal behavior left me confused. She had stormed off in anger to get an abortion. What was she doing now? I ate in silence. Honey, why aren't you talking? You always loved to chat with me when we ate. We should eat in silence. And other people's interesting stories aren't my concern. Sarah seemed to have remembered something. Her lips tightened in embarrassment. Honey, Ben and I deleted our social media posts. I slept in a hotel after dropping him off yesterday. Between us, all right, I know you two could be naked together, but nothing would happen. Hurry up and finish eating so you can go. Sarah carefully took a few bites of breakfast and cautiously asked, Are you going for a follow-up appointment? I took time off today. I'll come with you. I ignored her and kept my head down. Honey, I feel panicked when you don't speak. What do you want me to do to forgive you? Post on social media, explain what happened that day, and announce that you've cut off all ties with Ben. If you do that, I'll forgive you. After repeating my request, Sarah's smile disappeared and her face was full of anger. Leo, I'm pregnant with your baby. Is this how you treat me? Our relationship can't handle this kind of emotional turmoil. Why do you have to push me to my death? I actually went to the police yesterday. I know I misunderstood you, but you're not seriously injured, are you? You're making a big deal out of nothing. You used to say you were too busy to take vacation days. Now that you've hurt your hand, you can have a break. That's a blessing in disguise. Why would you? I slammed my chopsticks and asked her coldly, Why don't you give that blessing to Ben? Why did you have to run? And would all of this happen if Ben kept his mouth shut? Sarah slammed the table in anger. Unreasonable. Haven't I told you countless times that he has bipolar disorder? Would you be happy if you were the cause of his death? Is that the only way you'll stop being jealous and be happy? You're a doctor, and not only do you lack empathy, you're being melodramatic about it. He's been blaming himself since he left. He even tried to stop me from getting angry because you're being cold to me. He has done what a boyfriend should, but you want me to break up with him. How can you be so cruel? They say people never hit you in the face, but she repeatedly used Ben to humiliate me. All my anger and grievance reached a breaking point. So, should I thank you for giving me the opportunity to take a bullet for Ben? And I even had to call the police for myself? Whenever Ben is involved, she loses her mind and her ability to make rational judgments. In the past, I was the one who lost my rationality because of love. Now that I was calm, she was the one who was breaking down. They say people get angry when they feel guilty. It is indeed true. Sarah's anger turned into a hint of guilt when I questioned her. I was in a hurry to escape, and my phone was dead. How was I supposed to know you can't even run away? I laughed like she was an idiot. When she was comforting a depressed Ben, she could even borrow a charger in a public toilet. But her phone happened to be dead when her boyfriend was in danger. Whether it was deliberate or not, it was clear to see. And if I could have run away, would I have stayed to be their punching bag? Sarah, do I look like a person who wants to die, get hurt, or seek stimulation? Well, you ended up being all right in the end. Even if they abused you, would I even hate you? In the end, her voice was barely audible. Her eyes darted, betraying her true feelings. She had not forgotten how disgusted she was with me the night before. Sarah, don't deceive yourself anymore. I don't want your love. Ask yourself if you ever treated me as your boyfriend. If she had just called the police in time, I wouldn't have been beaten like this. She even thought my bruises were hickeys. I didn't understand how she could be so blind and clueless. She would cheer for Ben even if he was just farting. This love, which had brought me so much pain and confusion, had unveiled its ugly face. In her words, it was indeed a blessing in disguise. Leaving someone who didn't truly love me and starting my life again to chase my dreams was indeed my blessing. I had always thought that I would be in unbearable pain and not want to live if I left Sarah, but physical pain replaced the heartache. I calmly took my phone and showed her. I've asked my colleague to arrange your abortion for today. Take a look if it's okay and head over. When I loved her, I would give her my life. Now that I've been hurt so badly, I just wanted a clean break. Sarah stared at me for a long time and went to change. She made a show of moving around, but I ignored it all. The earlier the procedure, the better. You can recover quickly and we can all move on. Sarah stopped. She put on a matching outfit that I had bought. For the first time, I thought that our matching outfits looked ugly. When the love is gone, the person's glow will also disappear. We're going to a hospital, not on vacation. You look like a clown. This outfit was something I bought after Ben had repeatedly dragged Sarah away during our dates. It was a way for me to show that I was her boyfriend. But Sarah hated it. She said it was ugly and she wouldn't wear it. She even tried to manipulate me by saying I had bad taste. She said I could have used the money to buy her some Yves Saint Laurent lipstick instead. I had bought her every single shade, but she had never worn it for me. She would wear it for Ben when she was treating his mental health issues. If I hadn't swapped shifts with a colleague and decided to surprise her, I wouldn't have found out that she was giving all her surprises to Ben. I thought she would get angry and change after I said the clothes were ugly, but she hugged my arm and placed her hand on her stomach. I'm not going to get an abortion, but I'll have a prenatal exam. I was confused. She suddenly stated, I'm the only one who can end this relationship. You don't have the right to break up with me. I played a recording. Sarah's face went white, and she immediately tried to snatch my phone. The recording was from Ben. He thought it was over between me and Sarah, and he was eager to provoke me. Leo, I'll be honest, the kid in Sarah's belly is mine. That night, she got too drunk and mistook me for you. I must say, she's quite a catch when she's drunk. I received the message when she was changing her clothes. How pathetic I was to make all these arrangements for her abortion. If the kid wasn't even mine, why would I even care about her postpartum recovery? Sarah was pale. She snatched my phone and deleted Ben's voice message. Leo, don't listen to his nonsense. It's absolutely impossible. How could I not know who I was with? So you're saying that Ben likes the feeling of being a cuckold? Sarah shook her head and bit her lower lip. So, that's why Ben kept telling me not to have an abortion, right? Because the baby was his. My words made her tremble. No way. That night, he took me home and then I was with you? After she said the date, I knew Ben wasn't lying. That night, after Sarah went to bed, I had received an urgent call from the hospital to come in to treat a critical patient. Not wanting to disturb her sleep, I left her a note on the table, but she hadn't seen it. So, when would I have the time to be with her to get her pregnant? And I hadn't touched her for a week after that. Sarah looked at the time of the call on my phone, and her face turned completely white. She closed her eyes, and tears flowed uncontrollably. What was this then? Regret? If she hadn't given Ben the password to the door, then how would he have had the chance to take advantage of her? To be precise, her ambiguous attitude had been hinting to Ben from the start. She was an adult and a psychologist, so I think she knew what would happen. Unfortunately, love blinded her, and she just wanted to keep living in her fantasy. I don't believe her excuse that she mistook people. Sarah seemed to understand my thoughts. She lifted her chin and said stubbornly, Believe it or not, I really thought that was you that night. I don't care whether I believe it or not. I just want to break up with you. Since you have a child with Ben, then the decision about the child is not related to me anymore. At that moment, Sarah panicked. She saw in my determined and disgusted eyes that I would never compromise. I ignored her and called my colleague in the obstetrics department to cancel the appointment. But Sarah grabbed my phone and said not to cancel it. After hanging up, she seemed to have made a decision and sincerely said, Leo, I was drunk. If I get an abortion now, can you forgive me? One's heart doesn't turn cold in a single day. After 5 years, she really thought that I would forget all her neglect and hurtful actions just because she told a pathetic lie. Even if she gets an abortion, my dead heart will never allow me to spend the rest of my life with her. I devoted myself to love for many years and was blinded by its illusions. That is the most genuine sacrifice I made for this relationship, and Sarah didn't even notice the pain I was experiencing. Until the truth came out, she then pretended to care, begged me not to leave. If she had known then, why didn't she just not do it in the first place? Leo, we were so loving. Why do you have to break up with me over such a small thing? If you hadn't gone to the hospital that night, I wouldn't have been taken advantage of by Ben. You are the one who didn't protect me, isn't it? Her voice trembled, and while she was begging, she was still blaming me for not protecting her. I never blamed her even when she left me to face those thugs alone. I always thought that it was my responsibility to protect her. The only thing I couldn't accept was her ignoring me after she left me for dead, and then she also started flirting with Ben. She cried so pathetically and looked so innocent, but I was unmoved. Do you think having a kid with your childhood friend is a small matter? Or that my almost broken hand is just a small matter? I seemed calm on the outside, but I was hurting inside, and she couldn't see any of that. She just wanted all my love and emotional support, but she gave all the love and care that I deserved to Ben. She didn't want to look at my bruises and scars. Her eyes were red. Honey, I'm sorry. I did that to escape. If I had known that you would have been hurt this much, I would never have abandoned you. I swear I will never let Ben near me again, and I will never abandon you in any danger. Please forgive me, okay? Because Ben didn't want to see us being lovey-dovey, Sarah had barely called me honey. It was the first time in many years that she had called me that so sincerely, and she had called me honey more in these 2 days than in the entire past year. I had always thought that she was my destined love, and we would face life storms together, but I was just a cuckold. Sarah cried and asked me to accompany her to the hospital for an abortion, but I couldn't be that gracious. I called Ben directly. Sarah immediately collapsed. She hugged me tightly and wouldn't let go. Leo, I don't want to see him, and I don't want to give birth to his child. Please don't leave me. I tried to push her away despite the pain, but she held on tighter. As long as I get rid of this child, we can start over again. I admit I gave Ben more attention than a doctor or a friend should have, but I never wanted to break up with you. Don't you want to study abroad? I'll get an abortion, and we can go abroad together and forget about everything. What do you say? Before, when I tried to talk about going abroad, she would always refuse, saying she couldn't because of work and family. But now she was willing to leave for the sake of saving our relationship. But it was too late. Sarah, don't you understand the problem? This I want everything act will only make me feel disgusted. Sarah's face drained when she heard the last 2 words. I had never used such harsh words to her. Even though she and Ben had no boundaries, I had never said such things. But she had gotten used to the smell of Ben's perfume, and she called my antiseptic scent disgusting. She would even ask me to not smell so bad, like a hospital all the time. In order not to disgust her, I would always take a shower and change as soon as I came home. Now I know, it wasn't about the smell. It was all in her head. She thought I was disgusting. So I was. Just like her tears now, they did not move me at all. They just made me want to run away. The once goddess had fallen. She was just an ordinary person. I didn't want to go with her to the hospital, so she went alone. I still worried about her, so I sent a message to Ben and asked my colleague to look after her. Ben went wild when he didn't see me at the abortion clinic. He even tried to break into the operating room. My colleague told me that Sarah had already been on the operating table, but Ben had stopped the procedure. I had expected that, but this had nothing to do with me anymore. Originally, I postponed my trip abroad because I was going to take care of Sarah after the abortion. But now, I booked my flight and started packing. After walking around the house, I realized that I didn't really have anything to take. While she was at the hospital, I packed my things and left. I didn't want to soften up. I didn't want to torture myself by staying in the same place as her. My flight was in 2 weeks, so I checked into a hotel near the hospital. I would be leaving after I handed over my work. Sarah found out that I had moved out and started waiting for me at the hospital, but I ignored her completely. Even though it had only been a few days since we had separated, she had lost weight, and her face had lost all its glow. When she saw me, she looked like a heartbroken child. She looked into my eyes and whispered, "Leo, I miss you so much. Can you please come home? I feel so alone living there by myself." I took off my coat and tried to maintain my distance, but she seemed to no longer be disgusted by the smell of antiseptic. She walked towards me and opened her arms to hug me. I raised my hand and stopped her. "We are done, so please keep your distance." She paused for a moment. She shook my hand and said, "I was wrong. I didn't cherish you. I have completely cut off all ties with Ben, and I've posted an apology on social media. I've done everything you asked me to do. Leo, can you I looked at her pitifully and said firmly, no, I couldn't forgive her. I wasn't going to go home, and I certainly was not going to rekindle our relationship. My heart was dead. No matter what she did, it was all futile. She lowered her head and left. Maybe she had given up because she didn't come back to see me again. But Ben created a ruckus at the hospital. Leo, how can you be so cruel? I was annoyed and wanted to ask him to leave, but he angrily yelled at me. Do you have any heart? Sarah is sick in the hospital because of you, and you're not even going to see her? Isn't that what you're here for? Why would I care if she's sick? Hatred rose up on Ben's face, making him look monstrous. You tormented her to make her love you more. You're truly good at it. She's now refusing to cooperate with the doctors. She has a fever of 40 degrees and refuses to take any medicine. She said that only when she is punished by losing the child, you will forgive her. It was just a breakup. Was it really that serious? I had been hurt so badly, but I did not make a scene, and I told her clearly that there was no way for us to reconcile. I didn't understand what Sarah was doing, just like how she never understood what I was doing. When Ben saw that I wasn't willing to see Sarah, he lowered his head and begged me, Leo, I'm begging you, just go see her, so she can get better. I agreed to let her have an abortion. I went with him to the room. Sarah's face was flushed because of the fever. She was whispering, don't worry about me. I just want my honey to care about me. The doctors were helpless. It was just the flu, but she was acting like she was dying. When she saw me, her eyes lit up. Honey, you're here. You came to see me. I coldly told the nurse to give her a shot, and she cooperated immediately. But because her fever was too high, she couldn't keep the baby. After the fever went down, Ben grabbed her hand, full of concern. Sarah, why are you so foolish? I was so worried about you. But Sarah yanked her hand away and snapped at him. What are you doing here? Get lost. If it wasn't for you, I wouldn't have been dumped by Leo. We loved each other so much. I wasn't interested in their drama and turned to leave. When Sarah saw me go, she panicked, pulled the needle out and chased after me. Honey, where are you going? I didn't turn back. Sarah, take care of yourself. Goodbye. The elevator doors closed and shut off her cries. That day, I boarded a plane to pursue those dreams that are worthy of my sacrifices. The past was the past. I left it behind. The end.